this is Crystal Blue, and I'm filming this special reading. It's another one of my conglomeration type readings, but this one is, it involves the divine masculine and divine feminine energy and the twin flame, the twin flame energies that are around between, I guess, I want to say the full moon, supermoon in Scorpio to the supermoon total lunar eclipse in Sagittarius. So, as I've said in other readings, I check energy almost daily, and these are the piles that I was picking up on specific repetitive numerology, as well as key figures showing up, such as the Empress, the Emperor, the High Priestess, Archangel Michael, the Magician, and also strong moon energy again. So this also has to do with Akashic Records, the stories, the involvement of the Akashic Records of past lives, of coming to this culmination beyond the great shift of December 2020 at the winter solstice, where we are being asked to grow from within in order to birth this new earth. And that involves love, unconditional love. So this is a candle that I picked up at a hospital in Utah when I was there for some personal treatment, nothing serious, but it says all you need is love on this heart, this little heart charm, and there's a blue crystal type charm there, and the candle is like a tan color and blue colors, reminding me of the beach. It reminds me of the beach type motif or candle. So it's also kind of emulating the High Priestess color on her dress. Okay. And she's got hearts. It looks like these almost look like hearts above her, but they're red, red symbols behind her throne. I'm dealing with the dark and the light, and there's looks like a moon right there too. So the moon energy is super strong, and the way I decided to put these cards together, you can refer to my conglomeration reading on my Patreon site, and if you can't find it, you can send me a message. But that was one that I originally posted back in, I think it was the fall of 2020, and it was quite pivotal information as well, just beyond, I think it was beyond the 8820 portal. So as I've taught on my website, Science Spirituality Universe City.com, I've taught about the portals and the energies and this shift, and the book that I wrote along with my son. It's our story as a mother and son, dealing with the difficult energies we had to shift away from, which was not about love at all. It was actually quite the antithesis of love. And so you'll see on our book cover of Past Forward the dichotomy between love and the antithesis of love and what is behind it, so to speak. And that image, you can look at it a number of different ways, but it's something that was downloaded to me within seconds back in 2000, 12 when I was a targeted individual and scientist. So I don't want to get into that, but it has been part of this twin flame journey, believe it or not, for me. And it's exactly at this pivot point when I was shifting away from that conditional love and danger toward meeting my twin flame. So I've been at this for quite a while, and I was actually reading about it even before I realized that I was one and that I was in the middle of it. So, as I said, with a conglomeration reading that I put together and I had originally posted on my Twitter feed at Blue Crystal, this is similar because I kept getting a lot of similar repeating numbers and energy shifts, and I'm going to show you those in sequence here best that I can, because it can be confusing, and the twin flame journey is confusing too because there's a lot of back and forth, and it's because a lot of people, especially twin flames, have been so damaged because of conditional love that it's very difficult for them to trust and to bring forth the unconditional love that we all need on this planet. But that is the new earth that we're moving into and that we're actually creating. So I love this globe that I got a while back. It's got an angel. It's got angels or cherubs flying around this woman. She actually looks like she's growing her own wings. So, we know that Spirit is here to help us birth this new earth, and they know how difficult this journey, this twin flame, divine masculine, divine feminine journey is. So I have a number of different things to bring into the reading, and I've got some amethyst here. A friend gave to me, an acquaintance that I met on this journey when we were homeless, and then eventually got into an apartment. So let's see. I think I want to start this by saying I'll talk about the decks that are prominent here, but mainly what I do is I use just regular playing cards, and I will kind of go through the deck in the morning and just shuffle it and see what the energy is for the day. And then if I see a pattern, I start stacking the decks, so to speak, so that I can return to them and recall what it is that I'm tuning into. And so this is another deck which I love. I just got some Skechers shoes and they sent this deck. So that was pretty cool that it came in the box with the shoes for my work. So I have another job outside of this, and so I'm still juggling Two of Pentacles, the 3D and the 5D, as I work on my spiritual business also. And many of us have had to do this. And it's not easy once you're wanting to be more in the 5D, but you still have to deal with the 3D and anchor in this unconditional love, especially at a point where a lot of people are becoming more difficult to deal with because of the pandemic and the frustrations and the sense of entitlement and the anger and all those emotions that people are feeling. So, anyhow, the next tarot deck, or the next deck that has numbers on it, is the Secrets of Tarot, this was my first tarot deck. And so I think Amanda Hall is the creator of the Secrets of Tarot. And if you want a tarot deck that's very easy to learn by, it was very easy for me, and it had a really neat booklet that comes with it. I don't have it nearby me now, but it explains to you how to use tarot to get specific answers by using the major arcana instead of using the whole deck. It also teaches you the Celtic cross, which is how I learned 3, 4, 5, 6, with the 1 and the 2 cards in the middle crossing each other, of course, and then the staff 7, 8, 9, 10. So you can refer to my reading December 2020 mid-month message, where I talk about the variances of the use of the Celtic cross spread. And I'll just leave it at that for now. But that was a reading that came through right at the great shift, in the Saturn. It's the Saturn-Jupiter great conjunction. So we're coming into June 2021, and that's 6 months since that, almost 6 months since that great Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. And in my opinion, this great shift is also the separation of the wheat from the chaff, so to speak, in terms of mitigating what is harmful on our planet to make way for what is new and what is truly meant for us on this planet, and not for just a select few elite. Surely the billions of people that have incarnated on our planet, which I wrote about in the first chapter of my book, Past Forward, surely billions of people are not a mistake. But what is a mistake is the use of war and conflict and violence and proxy war to annihilate as many people as possible and their families on this planet. That is the mistake. That is the great illusion, and that is what we're shifting away from. So the other decks that I'm using are the Archangel Power Tarot cards, the Magical Herb Oracle, and this one is by Sherilyn, Darcy. This one is by Radley Valentine, and I use this frequently. You can visit some of my other readings to see how I've been guided to use that particular deck. And I just did a pick a deck reading using this deck as one of the primary tarot decks. And this is a key deck to help guide me as a reader, a highly intuitive reader. And I've also posted several of these cards on my Twitter feed at Blue Crystal when they've come up, as I've shuffled them over the past year, and put them on Twitter because they're pivotal. And one of the cards that I'm talking about tonight that I posted in relation to clarity, the clarity card from this deck, and water, about water, that this other card is coming out in this particular reading. So we're getting a lot of clarity as this shift away from the illusion transpires. And just know that water is a key issue in relation to controlling people through resources, especially food and water. So this has been my journey, because I'm involved in both of those areas of life, food and water resources management, water resources control, and the manipulations that I've experienced as a scientist. The other deck that I am going to bring in toward the end is the Archangel Michael Oracle card deck. And this deck is the key deck that guided me and helped me when I was being a targeted scientist, and I won't go into the detail, but I used this extensively during that time for key guidance involving me and my animal companions who were in harm's way also. I found this at the dollar store, this prayer box, so I'm going to just read a couple prayers from this deck here. I forget the name of it, but it's like the Loving Words from Jesus deck, but I keep it in here. And this dollar store box came with a little pad of paper and a little pencil, so I like stuff like that, simple things to help remind me about prayer. The other oracle deck that I want to talk about is the Divine Feminine Oracle, and I introduced this one card from this deck in with the same pick a deck reading for I believe it was number 2, the number 2 pile, and it correlates also with this Archangel Power tarot card deck that I used for the same reading. So you can see where Spirit is tying all of this in together, and me as the reader, I'm interpreting all of this numerologically as well as energetically and involving the Akashic records. So this deals with past lives and many, many timelines. I've been inspired to write up some cards myself as well. So I've got multiple different cards that remind me of what kinds of energies and topics are key to dealing with the energy that we're dealing with on this planet, and the lockdowns and those causing the lockdowns, and the historical and religious problems associated with these lockdowns. And you'll see with the Akashic Records Oracle that type of situation or issue is coming through here too. So the divine is involved. The divine wants me to talk about this, and I'm going to place this reading under the mystery and history tier on my Patreon site as well. I'll probably leave it up on Patreon for free for a couple days, maybe a couple weeks. We'll see how it goes. But these are the types of special readings that I'm going to be doing in the future. And I'm just whenever they come up. As you can see, I'm not forecasting this. These are different decks that I'm using at different times, but there is a cohesive message here over multiple days, multiple weeks, and multiple people are involved on the earth plane as well as in 5D. So I'm going to come right back and I will start with this reading. Okay, so I'm back, and to start this reading, I'm going to read 2 quotes. One of them appears on my crystal grid kits that I am creating, and it is, nature uses only the longest threads to weave her patterns so that each small piece of her fabric reveals. Richard P. Feynman, scientist. And as you're listening to this divine masculine, divine feminine, twin flame, soulmate reading. Also keep in mind this quote: miracles are what happens when you get out of the way of yourself. Brad Zulz. So in order to catch your dreams, you might realize that you are too part of this larger fabric of life, being woven into this future that we are manifesting on our planet. And we are creating a new earth that is going to be about love and not war. So it's happening. It's happening whether the dark side wants it to or not. And there are enough enlightened people on our planet to make it happen at this point. And that's a good thing. So you can read the books, The Celestine Vision. And that's one of the books that I was guided to read around 9/11. And that is by James Redfield. And I strongly encourage you to get that book, and also The Celestine Vision, Holding the Vision, the 10th Book of Insights, and the Workbook. There are multiple ones that he's written. Those are the ones that I have, and I purchased them in the early to mid 2000s when I was working as a scientist in the water industry in California. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start, I think, with the numerology that is pretty strong, involving the secrets of tarot. So these are the 3 cards. There are multiple sets that came out at different times, but I noticed this pattern specifically, and I'll show you the numerology as well. And it's a repeating numerology. So here we have 3 cards, 1, 5, and 6. Okay, and when you add them up, that's 1 plus 5 is 6, and 6 is 12, right? So that is 1 plus 2, which is 3, and that is a significant number involving the Trinity, the energy of the Trinity, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. So the first card is the Magician, manifesting the new, right? Taking that leap of faith from the 0 point, saved by 0, essentially, which is what happened with me and my family. We're saved by 0. We had to pretty much drop down to nothing and work our way back up. So the Magician is here very strongly, and I'll show you why in just a minute. This is the element of surprise, good or bad. But if you notice the Magician, he's got all of the tools, and he's got the infinity symbol above him. That's the infinite life. Life goes on, right? Life is infinite. There's really no death. It's true that we lose our bodies when we pass on, but we continue on in another form. And that message is coming through this reading too, as I close out and show you a card that came out from the Talking with Heaven deck. So that's the Magician. There's been battles, 5, right? 5 is change, and it, unfortunately, when we have to go through the change that we need to go through, there's going to be battles. So there's the 5 of Swords, and it says losses. All is not lost, as you still have 3 swords remaining, giving you the upper hand. And you can see the storm clouds. And I talk about this storm in my pick a deck reading too, because those storm clouds are showing up there. So, and the 6 six card. So that's 1, 5, 6. 6 of Pentacles. A raise in money or salary. And, it's like, this is the attitude that many people are getting these days as this pandemic continues to surface, for good or bad. Obviously, there is some good or silver lining that's coming out of it, which I can see, but it isn't without death, and it isn't without pain and struggle. So what I'm getting at here is this person holding the scales of justice is handing out money to these beggars, right? And that's what I was talking about in the introduction to this, is these battles. And that's what I learned was being planned, which is why I became a target. But there have been battles, and they're plotted wars, and the people that are taking the people's money are turning around and acting as if they're about justice, while they're giving, essentially they've taken the money that belongs to these people, so to speak, the taxpayers, the families, and giving them a little bit and making them beg. And so that's what it felt like when I had to deal with these types of people in the justice system, as the justice system turned pretty dark and evil. And I saw that shift transpire myself in and outside of the courtroom by 2009 in California. So, again, I'm speaking from firsthand experience. But what I want to talk about here is it's been part of my journey to witness this, to be the witness, and to also understand my part in this whole situation and why I was where I was positioned at specific junctures all along the way. And there have been at least 3 12-year cycles that I've gone through where I watched this play out. That's why I'm saying these numbers are important, because they are repeating, because this problem has been repeating. Okay, so now I'm going to show you from the Archangel Power Tarot. I want to show you these cards, and I'll see if I can read from the book, because I think it's important here. On this card from Secrets of Tarot, it says a raise in money or salary. Okay, but they don't look like they're working. They look like they're on unemployment or worse, right? So I was astounded when I went back through my stacks and I started noticing these numbers matched exactly. Even though there are different cards up here, the Magician is still showing up. Okay, so the Magician energy is super strong. So is the High Priestess energy. And that gets to the crown, the third eye, and the crown chakra. Excuse me. So when your chakras are open and functioning normally, you'll be able to manifest better. But when you're in this kind of a situation, it's much more difficult, and that's part of the goal of the devil, in my opinion, is to mess with not only our livelihoods, but if the devil or Satan can get you in a depressed state, it's easier for Satan to get your soul. And I experienced that energy firsthand. Okay, so the number 1 card that corresponds with this number 1 card from the Archangel Power Tarot deck involves Archangel Raziel. You can manifest the life that you want. So despite being put in this situation, which more people have been since this happened to me and my son, um, you still can manifest the life that you want. And know that what you need, not so much what you want, but what you need will manifest, will appear magically. And it will help you in a successful new beginning. But you have to keep the faith, right? Because faith, right, it says here, faith moves mountains. Okay? And that is Matthew 17:20 from the Holy Bible, the King James Version, I believe. So there we go, Archangel Raziel. So yeah, even though bad things happen and a lot of us have been treated this way, you know that we are going to raise out of this. It's not just about pentacles, all right? It's about resources. And that's where my career background came into play in a major way, because I was managing critical natural resources, especially water. So, so let's see, the number 5, this is the battles card, right? 5 of Swords. And then this one is 5, divine guidance. And so again, I was receiving so many downloads when I was going through all of this as a scientist and a mother and a female. And so, the divine guidance was coming to me for a reason. This card says the search for meaning in life. The search for meaning. Okay, not material stuff, for meaning. Consider an alternative approach and surround yourself with wise teachers or friends. Meaning, I had to cut out the riffraff, the BS, the crap that is perpetuated by those who are profiting from others' peril, like this. Okay, so the goal is to not focus on the pentacles right away. We've all been conditioned that we need to have a house, 2 cars, 50 pair of shoes, go eat out all the time and stuff. So you don't really need that to have a meaningful life. So that's what Spirit is getting at here. Surround yourself with people that actually do care about life and others' lives. And as you do, you'll continue to propel yourself forward on your search for the meaning of life. Okay? And that's when you do these things, you'll be manifesting, because you'll have all the tools. You'll eventually have all the tools, the pentacles, the cups, the swords, and the wands. And that's what he's got on this table right here. He's got all the tools in his tool belt, so to speak. And he's raising his arm up in victory, because he's going to have an infinite life. His life, the life he's manifesting, is infinite possibility. So again, look at this card closely, and you can see the chakras colors there. The electromagnetic spectrum that is in our atmosphere surrounds us, and it's also representative of the colors of the chakras that comprise our internal energy systems within our bodies. Like I call it the electrical spine that's within us, the electrical energy spine. So know that when you do these things, that you're going to have better success at receiving divine guidance to help you change and steer you away from the shysters on our planet. And this is where the number 6 card comes in, right? So they want you in this state, but divine, the source of all that is about love and diversity. And so look at the difference between this and what divine source wants you to have. Okay, so make choices from your heart. Okay, too many people are so focused on their mental thoughts and battling each other mentally, which is what the swords also represents, mental battles, because what happens in your mind happens before it plays out in the environment. As I've said in my first tarot readings that I put on YouTube. For the glory of love, all that glitters is not golden, and the clarion call for transformation. You can find those there. So Archangel Raphael is here to remind us to love. Make choices from your heart, deeply emotional commitments, the power of love. Okay? Power of love versus the force of control. Mental control, mental battles, and physical manipulated battles. So again, like I said, 1, 5, 6 are prominent, right? And we have 1, 5, and 6 here. If I can get them organized there. There we go. So this is what you want to manifest with divine guidance. That's why I love this Archangel Power Tarot deck so much, because it's less harsh than traditional tarot. But it's good to know traditional tarot so that you can interpret what the divergence is, what spirit is trying to help us see, and see through the illusion, which is what these next cards are about. And that's where the High Priestess comes in. So this next set involves Archangel Michael and the Ace of Swords cutting through the BS, right? Cutting through this and even this. Even if you get a little bit a raise of money from like the government, well, it's your money, it's not the government's money. And so Archangel Michael wants us to be strong in our truth and speak. And when you do, you will definitely receive divine guidance, just as I have. Because you don't want to be in this self-imposed prison where you're being played by these players playing with your money in the government. So this is how they want you, and this is how they wanted me. And for a while they had me there because they're controlling more resources, houses, water, food, transportation, you name it. And you can look it up under Agenda 21. You can also read about it in the book Behold a Pale Horse and Code Word Barbelon, which that talks more about the religious, patriarchal control part of it, but that is also connected to the war machine when you look at it more closely. So to get from this to this, I had to do this. Okay? I listened to divine guidance and I became more in tune with what was sounding around me to try and imprison me. But it was actually being thrust upon me so that I would think that I had no way out. but I did. And that's where the faith comes in. And so then when you look at the 8 and the 2, even though this is the High Priestess and this is the swords, we're still dealing with all these swords, right? The Ace of Swords and the 5 of Swords. So when you add the 5 of Swords and the Ace of Swords, that's the 6 of Swords, right? And in traditional tarot, that's moving out of choppy waters toward more calm waters. And that's what Archangel Michael is showing up here to help us do. And that's exactly what happened in my situation. And it was reported to me that certain eyes saw Archangel Michael around me. So I've talked about this in my book, Pass Forward. And it is real. The angels want to help us. So this is being intuitive, right? Touching or getting in touch with your intuition and not getting caught anymore deeply in the illusion, the moon. Okay? So that's part of the twin flame journey, though, too, is discovering that nobody really has sovereignty over you. You do. But our parents have been conditioned, and we were being conditioned to think a certain way. And it's hard to get out of that conditioning. Even into adulthood, even when you're suspect, like I was, it was still hard to separate myself from it because, your family is tied into it because they've been conditioned. So it's these problems of conditioning over centuries, and that involves our DNA, which I also talk about in a reading where you'll see an index card like this that talks about issues, ancestral issues, and it says issues on it. So that's one of the key cards that I made that came out for this particular spread, this particular conglomeration reading. But I think you can see what I'm talking about here. And I do have to talk about myself a little bit so that I can give you some context of how Spirit's communicating to me and why these cards are coming up in the sequences that they are. And there was one other thing I wanted to show. So yeah, I talked about the 8 and the 2, okay? So I went from being bound, gagged, no money, house thieved, animals harmed, career wrecked, etc., to something better. And when you add the 8 and the 2 together, that's a 10. So you're going to see the 10s. And I'm going to set these right here to remind me to talk about these 10s because I'm also seeing them repeatedly in my travels to and from work and to and from different errands. So that's how I know how Spirit's talking to me because that's how Spirit was talking to me before. I also see, like I said, you have the 5 and the 5. The 5 of Swords, but you also have divine guidance if you pay attention to what is sounding around you and you ask for help. Okay? Ask for divine guidance. That's Archangel Sandalphon as well as Archangel Michael. Several readers, or at least like Consciousness Evolution Journey, she sees the Archangel Michael energy associated with the Ace of Swords in traditional tarot as well. But this is divine coming in to help you cut through the difficulties. Okay. And in the Celtic Cross reading for December 2020's mid-month message on my Patreon site, you will also see this sword in relation to the Queen of Swords. So I too have been busy cutting out all this difficulty. And you see the sword with the um, magician on this table, and you see this card, right? And the ace is one. It's a new beginning by cutting through things, cutting through the battles, the energy battle, um, and battling different energies that come at you. And the number one, magician. And that's how you help manifest a new beginning with Archangel Michael. Okay, so, and I can do an extended reading on those cards if you like. So I'm going to get into, so I talked about the 10, right? And then from that, going from the 9 to the 10, I believe I talked about that in my first pick a deck reading, because there were several 9s, and that's the other thing I wanted to show real quick. I think so just keep in mind this moon energy, and we're at the full moon, super moon, total lunar eclipse as I film this. May 26th, 2021. So I guess I will talk about the 10s here, and I'll come back to this moon card because it adds up to a 9. So we're shifting from the 9, the difficult energies, and it can take quite a while to get from the 9 to the step 10. But step 10 is here for many people that have done the work. 10 of Swords, okay, that looks pretty painful, doesn't it? But when you use your intuition, you're healing even as you have to deal with this 10th sword, just as I've had to. And then we have the 10 of Pentacles. And this is like to me, it's a sacred contract card, but that's like a happy home, a happy ending. You have enough resources and money to enjoy life. Money contentment, signing of a money agreement. Okay, so I'm going to put that on the Akashic Records Oracle card deck because that's also coming out as a message there, a corresponding message. So think of what I just said about Archangel Michael and the 5 of Swords and the Ace of Swords adding up to the 6 of Swords, and you're moving away from the conflict. But even as you're moving away from the conflict, just as I did, these swords are still coming because that's how evil works. It just wants to gravitate and consume those that are targeted, and like the dark consumes the light. But this is when you're walking away from this, you're going towards your new, right? The Fool. You're taking that leap of faith. As I said, you're taking the leap of faith. Actually, this way you're walking away from the illusion toward your magic, okay? The Magician. So that's what I'm seeing here. Despite being stuck in the illusion still, because all of society has been deluded in one or more ways with disinformation, once you make that mental choice and you make it from your heart and you get your mind and your heart aligned, your soul compass will take you where it is that you really want to be. And this gives you more options. It's a slow process, as I said, and this is the slowest knight in the deck, but he's holding on to his pentacle and he's moving forward. He has a message to share, and he may be a visitor to you. And my pick a deck reading talks about this also as a visitor. Doesn't have to be female, doesn't have to be a male. It could be a masculine energy in a female body or feminine energy in a masculine body. Here it says a young man, but this again is traditional tarot. So again, everybody needs a pentacle to get by in life. So you want to be protective of your resources, but you don't want to hoard them, because that's what is happening in this card here and here. Okay? And that's what Archangel Michael wants us to realize. It doesn't matter what catastrophe comes toward us, it all has to do with control, which has to do with battles and war. And that's what we're trying to grow away from, so we birth a new earth with divine guidance. And 5 is the change number. 5. So just keep in mind there's a younger generation coming behind us, and they need help also. And that's part of my journey, is to help with that. So we have a 10 of Swords. There's another 10. We have, you probably heard our dog out there. We have a 10 here. The Empress, she has options. So yeah, they're different. This is a major arcana and this is a minor arcana, but I'm just talking about the energies coming out and the numerology at this point, because there's several 10s. When you get to this Empress point, you do have options, but you still have to choose carefully, because this is the all that glitters is not golden card, and this is one of my first tarot readings that I did. I think it's about a 10-minute reading, but you can see this is where people get tripped up on all the shiny pretty things, which is what I observed as a former military spouse. How many people at different levels and different ranks, and even officers' wives, they get caught up in the trinkets and the ego, essentially. And war is destructive. There's just no way around it. It's illogical thinking when you dissect it for what it is. And that's part of my journey. And this is pretty much where I'm at. So there's several 10s here. There's this set 10. This is the 10 of Swords I've gone through. Here's the 8 of Swords. So, the High Priestess is the highest card in the tarot deck, and she's the highest in the deck for a reason, but the Empress embodies all of the queens: the Queen of Swords, the Queen of Wands, the Queen of Cups, and the Queen of Pentacles. And that's a journey that you have to go through, along with feeling confined by all these people trying to manipulate options on our planet, even water options. So, and then that leads me to this deck, the Skechers deck, the newest. Look how cute this is. Thanks, Skechers. But the main card that came out is the 10 of Spades, which is the 10 of Swords. So that was kind of timely, because right as I was getting some new work shoes is when I was getting notification about the 10 of Swords, and it's showing up here as well. So there's that. And then on the bottom of the deck is the Ace of Pentacles, which is a new prosperous beginning in the regular tarot. Okay? And that correlates back to the 10 of Pentacles, which is from the Ace of Pentacles to the 10 of Pentacles. it's a trajectory that you're on. So, overall, I was searching for, a new prosperous beginning, because what I dealt with was essentially battle over my resources by people like this. So, and there's the Seven of Swords behind that. Those are the players, right? So, Seven of Spades is Seven of Swords in the traditional tarot. And Four of Swords is rest in the traditional tarot. So I've been dealing with, I was dealing with a lot of players. People playing, like I said, the options, the shiny, pretty things that they are so enamored with while life is dying before their eyes, and they can't see that. That's why more people are trying to hold on to their pentacles. So we're still not done with this, and I would suggest that you hold on to your pentacles, but also help others, so you don't become greedy and you don't become like this, because you will. And that's the goal of some, to separate the haves from the have-nots. And when you do that, you are selling a part of your soul, whether you realize it or not. Your humanity suffers. So I've learned that these are frustrations that can be overcome as I grow myself in different ways. So that's what the Seven of Wands is. Seven of Clubs. Is that right? And this is the clubs. Yeah, this is the Seven of Wands. Frustrations you're able to overcome, and I have been able to overcome it. Hasn't been easy by any stretch of the imagination. And there's the Nine of Wands. And there's another 9. And there's another 7. Okay, so 7s and 9s. 9 of Wands, 9 of Swords, 7 of Pentacles, hard work that needed to be done. 5 of Wands, that's another 5. So you can see the 777 coming through here, as well as the 10. And even in my first pick-a-deck reading, the 7s were prominent for one of the piles. I think it was pile 3. So there's 7, 7, 7 right there. Okay. And then, it is exhausting, and so that's why this 4 of Swords, a 4 of or 4 of Spades is here. Yeah, and we're tired. We've been tired for a long time, because some people aren't carrying their weight, and they're taking what doesn't really belong to them and calling it justice. So 777 is here. 7 of Pentacles, 7 of Spades, that's the player card, and 7 of Wands, frustrations over these players, and, making everybody else do the hard work while they sit back and act as if they're better than everybody else. So there's the 9 and 9, and that is also the moon. That's part of the illusion that they think they're better than us, and they're not. But that's part of this journey too, is to say, no, I have self-respect and I will be respected. And so that's, using your voice, and Archangel Michael helps you do that as well. So 8 plus 1 is 9. Speak up about the illusion. There's the 9 of Wands. Carrying a heavy load, because that's what these people want, is for you to carry the emotional burden and the financial burden. And this is a 9 of Swords. The staying up awake late at night with a lot of anxiety while they party and have sex with whoever they want, whenever they want, as players, and prostitute people and resources for the illusion, which is where Satan is, essentially, I learned. And I've said on Twitter before, it's alien to humanity, and I'm going to say it again here. So that's a Nine of Swords in traditional tarot, with a woman in her bed crying, sitting up, very upset, and there's 9 swords around her. And that's what a lot of targeted people have felt like too. The 5 of Wands is arguments. Okay, so you can see the numerology is coming through pretty strongly. But know that when you get help from the angels and source, divine source, you will have a new beginning. And that new beginning requires that certain things come to an end. And that's where we're at right now, with the good karma and the bad karma. So do get your rest and fight the good fight. Okay, so I do want to show also and just remind you again, there's the 10 of Swords in this deck. And there's 10 there with the High Priestess who, was feeling bound. Or maybe that's you that feels that way now as you're gaining your intuition. And the Akashic Records, I'll show you those next, because you'll see where the crown chakra comes in. And the solar plexus. So there's another set of 10. All that glitters is not golden. You can look at my YouTube. You can look at my channel on YouTube and find the image of this and understand how misguided many people have become about what is really valuable. And too many have decided that war is more valuable than life. So, okay. And that is the illusion that we are crawling out of. Let's see. So I got that one. I'm going to talk about the Akashic Records, as I said, and then I'm going to go back and talk about the King and Queen energy that was coming out again. And you'll see yet another 10 of Swords and a 9. Okay. A couple of 9s. So I'll put this over here so we talk about that again. And that's the shift from the 9 energy to the 10, to the ending. So the crown chakra was at the bottom of the deck of this Akashic Oracle deck when I shuffled a particular day. And that's when, this conglomeration reading was coming together pretty nicely. So there's the past lives card. And that's what I was learning more. The more my chakras opened, the more my third eye opened, I was realizing that I was meeting certain people from past lives and living through past life issues as well as quote-unquote current issues, current events. And therein lies the issue overall, is fear, ego, and drama. Okay. And let's see. And this fear, I learned, had everything to do with religious control behind the scenes and involving government. And you can see the spiral. I've called it like this black hole. And that energy, I felt myself. I felt when I was dealing with these types of people on certain military bases especially, but also outside of them, and dealing with the war machine. So when you realize that behind the scenes, the Catholic Church and other churches are involved in profiting from war, and then you look back through history, that's why I'm putting this in mystery and history, the tier mystery and history, because it has everything to do with this spiral effect. And this is also the, like the phi spiral. If you look up the phi spiral, you'll understand the phi spiral involving nature. And the quote that I read at the beginning of this entire reading, which is, nature uses only the longest threads to weave her patterns so that each small piece of her fabric reveals. And as a scientist, I too have noticed specific patterns, and these patterns that were increasingly impacting me, my health, and my family life. And religion is behind it, and violation of Constitution. So the next card that comes after that is Truth and Justice, which is sorely needed, and which I also discovered was being highly compromised. And there also, this is the card that I posted on social media on my Twitter feed, along with the Clarity card, which shows a water droplet dropping into a pond, and that pattern circling or spiraling out also. So you can look at nature, but you can also understand how nature is being used and abused to control people. And so that's where this gets into my journey as a scientist and the twin flame journey that I'm on of truth and justice. And I was in law school for a while, and I was diverted. Okay, and I was diverted to places like this. I had no idea that I would be picking up on this kind of stuff, but that's exactly what transpired when I was on more than one military base over a number of years. I picked up on this type of energy in the 80s on a military base. So people that have been on military bases in particular, but also in the area of them, have actually had these kinds of ghost experiences. And a lot of it is tied back to Civil War. And that's what I was picking up on by 2007, 2008. So this, this comes back to this card, fear, ego, drama, as well as past life. And I was also learning that I was involved in sacred contracts. Carolyn Myss, MYSS, has a book about sacred contracts, and that's another book along with the Celestine prophecy that I was guided to start reading around 9/11. Look how pretty that rose is. And so this Ten of Pentacles, I don't hear too many readers talk about it in tarot, but to me, this is representative of the sacred contract, the Ten of Pentacles. And so this is the 10 that you want to get to. This is the contract that's actually not karmic, but it's more about having a happy, holistic life with happy dogs and living to old age. Okay, so along with the crown chakra on the bottom of the deck, the top of the deck is third eye, And there was another one too. Yeah, solar plexus and then third eye. So that's what I was talking about. You have to find your strength. The angels and source, divine, help you find that strength as you open your third eye and grow more into your new life on the new earth with your crown chakra and your stellar gateway chakra. And you can find out more about those chakras on my website, Science Spirituality University, UNIVERSECITY.com. And I want to show you this King and Queen energy because we are dealing with past lives, and you might want to research who you were in a past life. I am slowly but surely learning more and more about mine, and I really haven't had the time to delve into it because I've been dealing with 3D and also teaching 3D, 5D energy issues involving fear, ego, drama, and past lives. But these past lives, some of my other posts on Patreon talk about that, so you can look for the tabs where it lists Past Life or Past Life Deck by Doreen Virtue, and I did audio recordings of several of those in relation to lessons and blessings, to the child, to war, to I'm trying to think of some of the other ones in that deck. Yeah, there's some key ones, and I think what I'm going to do too is post a separate posting where you can listen to any one of those that you want, because you more than likely have lived more than once. And so in this life, I've learned to, as I've written in my book, Past Forward, that there was king and queen energy involved and also knight energy. And when I traveled to England in 1996, I seem to have been picking up on that, and it was also kind of a destined meeting or a destined travel. But the King of Wands is so strong in so many readings right now, and it's in my Pick a Deck reading. I believe pile 1, the King of Wands comes out, but then so does the Queen of Wands in another one of the piles. Okay, and she's coming out in this conglomeration reading that I pulled before I filmed that. And those cards had been sitting waiting for me to film so that I could film the new earth readings first. So you can see, I'm not building this. Spirit is building this. Source is building this energy and these messages into a cohesive message about the new earth, because we know it's happened in past history involving kings and queens, especially in England and Ireland and Spain and let me see, Italy. So as I said again, from the 9s and the 10, there's a 9 and the 10 energy. So the Queen of Wands, she's been dealing with the Ten of Swords, at the Ten of Swords, but there is peace here, and it's mirrored twice in 2 different decks. The 9 of Diamonds in, the regular playing card deck is the same as the 9 of Pentacles, which talks about peace, peace of mind and contentment. And let's see, the King of Wands, there's this progression from the Knight of Wands, which is the player energy. They call him the fire pony on some channels that do the tarot readings, because he's moving around having sex with everybody. And then by the time he gets to the King of Wands, he's mastered that player energy, and his kingdom, right? Three of Wands is kingdom. The ship's coming in, and him setting his sights on how he wants to build his kingdom and establish his legacy, right? But there are a lot of players trying to establish their legacy in harmful ways, and that is part of the conditioning that we have to overcome so that we have peace on earth, instead of a bunch of players playing the field and manipulating the feminine energy on the planet and love, right? Unconditional love. So, Satan has a hand in this, of course, and it involves drugs, alcohol, addictions, addiction to control, addiction to misogyny, addiction to war, addiction to chemicals, chemical abuse in the environment, codependency and narcissism have melded. So also understand that it's not all bad male energy, because, like I said, it's conditioning of the masculine and conditioning of the feminine. So there's this battle. And that is another thing that I wrote about in my book, Past Forward, which I won't get into detail here, but I noticed that as a kid in the 70s, and how it was being portrayed and played out in Hollywood. So, and we can see that in numerous movies. This is the progression, though, of the Knight of Wands, as I talk about in my my first pick a deck reading, because there are many masculines who haven't lost touch with their feminine side, or the love, the gentle side of them, the yin side. And so these cards came out. And this is part of the soulmate journey as well as the twin flame journey. I have a strong desire to make things better. But when you have a society that continually feeds on and manipulates perception, as I talk about also in all that glitters is not golden. I believe I talked about the manipulation of perception by the law, and actually hearing that from at least one courtroom in Northern California. But know that the masculine, despite what's happening, it's up to each of us to choose love, right? And that's what I'll show you this card next that came out from the Talking to Heaven deck. I dream of you. I have a strong desire to make things better. I seek the highest, best outcome, and I have needs. So, the key is to determine what are actual needs versus greeds and manipulations. And I just cut the deck and it says, I've lied to you. So, lying, manipulating, cheating, stealing is player energy. And that's that's one of the 7 cards here, right? The 7, here it is right here, the 7 of Swords. The 7 of Spades. And a lot of men are players, and then the women start doing the same thing because they get mad at the men, and vice versa. So we have to turn things around, and it takes adults to do that. Adult behavior, not juvenile high school behavior. 777. So you might want to watch my pick a deck reading, and there's the number 7 appearing in that as well. So that's no coincidence. Many of us are dealing with past life issues that we've reincarnated in this lifetime to handle or not, because there's a lot of third-party interference. Now this can also be the celebration card, but for the longest time it was coming out as third-party manipulation and karmic manipulation, and that's the spy card, Page of Swords, and there's the Star card behind it. And the manipulation is they don't want an ending, for this star that's good. They manipulate the true talented people so that this game of life can keep playing out between the haves and the have-nots. And in my case, it involved my work as a scientist, as well as my personal life. But there's a soulmate card too. So this is saying that, you have to walk away from that energy, and it takes an adult to not get involved in the battles to the extent where you compromise your well-being and your families. And this 6 of Cups is memories of love, and it's also known as the soulmate card. And it takes work. You can't just say, I'm going to have sex with everybody I want. And, you can, but you're living in an illusion, because what you're doing is giving away your own energy to others. And there's a lot of energy vampires out there. So I did show the ancestor card, right? And so what I've learned through this too is there are ancestral DNA issues involving this, as well as historical, biblical conditioning and conditioning of perception of the woman versus the man. So with that, I've covered most of this. I do want to talk about the Magical Herb Oracle deck by Sherilyn Darcy. And this is one of the newest decks that I have, but I love it. And the main card is enthusiasm. So a lot of our enthusiasm has been squashed due to this coronavirus situation. So I encourage you to find ways to become more enthusiastic about life, and that actually involves helping other people, and not becoming enthused by this and not believing this. And that takes a leap of faith to not act like people that want to separate rather than unify us. And when you do, as I said again, there's going to be battles around you, because some people aren't going to be happy that you're doing this. But that's part of this journey of life, is to get to what's real and get away from the illusion. And I think I just put the illusion card back, because this also is part of the illusion. You have free will. There are universal laws, even when our laws are being broken so that this can continue on and on. Yeah, you may be coming out of the cold from the 5 of Pentacles and moving into the 6 of Pentacles, but do you really want to have to beg for what is actually your divine birthright, which is freedom? Freedom on earth. So that's the enthusiasm that I'm guided to talk about is becoming more enthusiastic about life and not about kowtowing to this. Because these people are killjoys, and they want you depressed and begging while they feel like they're the stars. So be the star of your own show, right? Even if they're spying on you. So that's the enthusiasm card, and then there's a couple more that I wanted to talk about. Many of us during this supermoon, full moon, lunar eclipse in Sagittarius are being activated in our crown chakras. I believe Consciousness Evolution Journey is talking about that in some of her postings the same week, so make sure you check her out. I don't remember which one it is, but I visited her site a couple days ago around May 24th, and that is what was coming through. So there's an activation at this portal, and as we go through these series of eclipses, be open to abundance and balance your life through compassion. Okay? And there's the key on this card. So keys, charm keys have been coming out for me personally. And there's one more card here poking out, and that is freedom from the cage. Open the cage door to accept your freedom. There's the acceptance card. And then there's the courage card right behind that. And then behind courage is expansion, which is part of abundance. Okay? And then after that is the change card, number 5, that I talked about earlier on. Here. The 5 divine guidance and the 5 of swords. So we want to change this. We don't want to battle anymore. We don't want to go to war anymore. We don't want to have conflicts. And let's see if there was anything else. I wanted to see if there's any other chakras or particular chakra. I talked about the solar plexus, the third eye, and the crown chakra overall. So the goal is to work toward activating your crown chakra, right? And that's part of the change and the expansion, is to activate your chakras and make sure they're working and functioning. And when you do that, you will gain more courage because you'll become more enlightened, and you will feel more free. Actually, you'll have more freedom. So, and there's the guidance card again. Guidance is coming out, and that's part of cleansing, is to clear your chakras. So make sure you visit my website, sciencespiritualityuniversity.com, for any final help. And there's the sacral chakra. So that's involving the root and the sacral, involve your base, your security, and your sexual identity, and your sexuality. So definitely we're talking about that in relation to the masculine and the feminine, but also the divine masculine and the divine feminine, and balancing the male and the female energy within each of us. We each have masculine and feminine energy that need to be balanced because, again, our society has taught us to behave certain ways, and we have to undo that conditioning, and we have to open up our hearts and our throats by speaking our feelings and also opening up our third eye as we protect the nature, or protect nature from all the chemicals that are being used in our foods, in our water supply, and in our atmosphere to actually imbalance us and block our third eye and our ability to become more activated in our lives so that we can have true freedom. Okay, so, and when we do that, here's the next card that comes out. Progress. So that's the kind of progress that we want to make. This is not really progress. You're stuck in the middle in a bunch of battles, and you want to manifest something better. And that's what progress is, manifesting true progress in society and to help our animals, our plant kingdom, our mineral kingdom from being mined so that it enriches a few people at the expense of the rest of us. So that's where the activation comes in. Cleaning up the environment, cleaning up our minds, cleaning up our bodies, directing our souls where we want them to go with divine guidance. And when you do that, you manifest the true life that you want and also the love that is yours. Okay, so I'm going to pull a couple cards from this Archangel Oracle deck, which I told you was very prominent in my life when I was dealing with. I was trying to start off on a new journey, but this is what I was dealing with. A lot of third parties behaving like this and causing a lot of drama and battles, and that gets back to this card right here. And this card, past lives, because now that is a past life, because I've moved on. I've learned through divine guidance how to do so. Okay, Archangel Michael, please provide the most accurate message to round out this conglomerate divine masculine, divine feminine, twin flame, soulmate reading. I'll be grateful for any specific additional guidance at this time. I'm hearing pray and love. Pray without ceasing and love. Thessalonians. Let's see, he's guiding me to this candle. Thessalonians. I can't see the actual number on here. Thessalonians 5:17 it looks like. I could be wrong about that, but there's the number 5 again. Thessalonians. I'll talk about the crystals on my desk real quick, and I'll pull a charm after this. Is there anything else that you want the viewer to know as I round out and complete this particular divine masculine, divine feminine reading involving soulmates, twin flames, and families on Earth? There it is right there. Believe and trust. Believe the magic and trust the divine guidance that you get. Okay? That's magical, isn't it? This says, this is a prayer. My prayer. Before going to sleep tonight, say, Archangel Michael, please enter my dreams and replace fear with faith and trust. Let me be filled with strength, courage, and confidence. Okay, thank you. And the bottom of the deck is take your time making this decision. Archangel Michael, please help me stay strong and relaxed as I approach this situation. Remind me to detach and step back, allowing the situation to naturally unfold. Thank you for protecting me. And at the top of the deck is decide to be happy now, no matter what. That's a card that's come out in other readings as well, I've noticed too. So I'm going to get some charms. If you want an extended reading from this deck, I'll be happy to do it. The bottom of the deck is Soothe for the Magical Herb Oracle deck. So perhaps you can drink some tea and find a quiet spot where you can relax and get your mind off anything causing anxiety. This is a number 35, Slippery Elm, I believe. Three plus 5 is 8, and 8 is the Magician. So it takes calmness and courage to manifest something truly better and not irrational, erratic behavior. So the crystals, this was given to me. I came upon somebody when I was going to get a haircut one day, and he happened to be almost driving away, and he and I started chatting, and he said, we were talking about crystals and such, and the state of conditions in the country and in the world, and he said, hey, I've got some jasper and rose quartz, would you like some? And so this is raw rose quartz. Many people know it to be pink, but this is what it looks like raw. And this is celestite. I talked about the Celestine Vision, the book. This is celestite. That book and the series of those books are well worth reading. And let me see if there's... This is also celestite. And this is selenite, the selenite stick, selenite tower. And this is chrysocolla with azurite. And I think that's it. In my charms, I have clear quartz crystal and onyx. And I set this out on the windowsill so that I can clear the energies. I put the onyx in there just in case of any negativity. Whoop. And look what, did you see that come out? It just flipped out, and guess what the charm is? It's a key. That's pretty cool. And that looks like a fancy key from like medieval times, doesn't it? So look at this key here and look at the key there. So open the door to your future. And divine guidance is there to help you do that. And with that, I think I'm going to end this reading. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed this conglomerate reading about the divine feminine and masculine, the energies that we're dealing with, the issues, the characters, the magician, the fool, the high priestess, the king and queen of wands in particular, and the Empress. I don't see the Emperor in here yet. So the king, as I said, is working on growing his heart. Yes, that was the one last thing I just remembered. I'm glad. Before I signed off, I know I did some Archangel Michael prayers, but I wanted to also do this at the end. This is a special deck, like the words from Jesus, but it's a smaller deck. I don't have the box out in front of me, but I'll try to post the creator of it for credit. Is there one last prayer or piece of guidance? Thank you, Spirit. Yep, look at that. It is more blessed to give than to receive. Acts 20:35. And there's the number 35 again. That was on the magical herb oracle card that I just read. Acts 20:35. Let's see if I can find it. It was the open card, right? Oh, here it is, I think. Nope. Let me see if I can find it one more time. I think it's actually over here. Yes. Remember it had the key on it? Actually, it was this other one. Let's see if I can find it now that I mentioned it, and then I'm going to close for the evening. Well, I guess I'm not supposed to show it again, but the message is clear, and that is that we are to remain open so that we can become activated through our chakras. And see these gears right here, and that will help move us forward, instead of being caught up in what I call the machine, the gears of the machine that don't help us manifest but keep us stuck in battles, and that keep us in, this kind of energy of being spied upon or becoming a spy against others. And keep us stuck in the Eight of Swords. And that's when Archangel Michael and others come to our assistance. But it's not always that easy, because there's a toll that, it takes a toll on us, and we become less compassionate because we get stuck in the machine, so to speak. So that's what I'm here to talk about, and I really appreciate your time, and I'm going to sign off for the evening. But if you have any comments or want to share an experience with me that resonates with this, that would be great. Just remember, decide to be happy, and this will bring you great enthusiasm to propel yourself forward on your magical journey. Namaste.